Campers, really, is what they were. The university became a place which was not just ours, but theirs. So one of the important things that Canadian universities can do, and many are doing, is opening up their facilities to not only middle-class people who are comfortable, or wealthy and elite people who are comfortable with universities to begin with, but groups in society that are have not necessarily had that experience or have other obstacles to getting here. There's a lot of hard work to do once you get here, of course, too, but that's another matter. But accessibility is a major issue. But I wanted to tell you about Rise and Flow because it's an example of student activism. It's a very positive piece of work that these students have been leading. And it is something that helps the university look at its role in a way that is, I think, more open, more flexible, and trying to accompany, if you will, a changing population, a changing community. And I think really it raises the question of what universities are for. Universities are certainly for the intergenerational transfer of knowledge, the production of knowledge in the more traditional sense that we know it. My view, and the view of others, though, is that universities are actually for making a better society. That our mission is not only that formal transfer of knowledge and production of knowledge, it is to work with the communities in which we're located and to work in partnership with them to help make them better, to help make the society fairer, more prosperous, cleaner, safer, better. There are many ways that universities can undertake such a mission and do. This is not particularly new, but we've been doing some work at Carleton to try to aggregate a vision of what we do, the various ways we engage with the community around us. Other universities are doing that as well. We call it vectors of engagement, that is, various ways in which we're building or strengthening the ties with the Ottawa region, in our case. So, opening up the facilities for events like this is an important function. It's a pretty low-key function in an administrative sense, but it can be quite an important function in a content, in a policy, or in a movement sense. We have a lot of adjunct and contract instructors that come from various parts of the community. They are talented, they're committed, they don't get paid very much, but they add to the richness of the university, but they bring the community, in a sense, to this institution. We have a radio station. The radio station has voices from many parts of Ottawa society and many traditions in Ottawa. We have a great reggae program, for example. But we have many other programs on that radio station that reflect a growing diversity in the population, both inside the university and outside. Our senior management team needs to and is trying to get its mind around these interactions with a diverse community and how more and more university events and strategies can reflect that. One of the strategic themes in our new strategic plan called Defining Dreams is actually about global identities. And that is a rich and complex concept. But really the intent is to use all the tools of the university to explore, to understand, to promote, and indeed ensure understanding among various global identities, both here and internationally. We have a series, like all universities, of student services which need to be aligned with the changing needs of the student population, but also with the changing relations with the community. We have many things that we're doing there, one of which is a program called Carleton Serves, where students are mobilized to get out and do volunteer work on all kinds of projects in the community. This is important for understanding on both sides, and it's a useful thing. So that's at the university level. There are many other things that we're doing, but at the level of individual courses and research projects and research centers, there is more to say. We talk ourselves internally about a dynamic triangle of 3 areas of activity. One is experiential learning of students, where again, students will go out and work with community groups, businesses, government agencies, to really understand, if you will, the outside world. It's just the regular world. It's not particularly outside, but to them, to the course, it's outside. They do all sorts of things. They may do studies. They may job shadow. They may sit in training programs or even help evaluate training programs if they're graduate students in agencies that are in the community. We have a co-op program in our case that has 1,000 people registered in it every year. They go to institutions, they work, they get paid for that. And we're trying to expand that program because students really benefit from it from many ways, many practical ways. They get contacts, they get things to put on their resume, legitimately so. But it also enhances understanding among various groups on our side in the university, but also students are learning about what it's like in particular agencies and organizations. We pay a lot of attention to research partnerships with agencies outside of the university and to something that is growing here called community-based research, where nonprofit organizations are working with universities, and there's an attempt to balance or rebalance relations so that scholars are working with community leaders, community organizations, and that there is a validity that is recognized to, if you will, civil society or citizen knowledge. And so our concept is not that just academics sit in their office down the hall and produce papers and that's the way you produce knowledge. That's not so bad. That's not a bad thing to do. But to actually work with in working groups and task forces and projects with community members who have valuable knowledge about a particular issue, about the quality of water, about land use planning, about jobs for particular groups of citizens. So there's a recognition now in this whole area of community-based research, which is also reflected in some of the funding agencies. So the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, which is a government-funded agency, is funding more of this kind of work across the country. So there's a recognition officially in the government that citizens, groups, movements are producing valuable knowledge and that it's useful to combine the knowledge of scholars, engaged scholars, with active leaders and community members. One of the important things, however, is that is the issue of jobs. And there's an economic base, or if you will, a material base to this discussion or to this set of strategies that we recognize. That is to say that if large sections of the population are not working, don't have hope for an economic future, this leads to some pretty difficult challenges in society. It can lead young men, for example, into gangs. It can lead people into other lines of activity which are not productive for their households or indeed for society. So universities, I would say right now, have a very important role to understand how the Canadian economy is shifting. Our entire auto sector, with the exception of a couple of companies, has been vaporized, basically, or is on life support. They're 2 fairly harsh metaphors, but I think they're apt. What are people going to do who live in Windsor? What are people going to do who live in Oshawa? Wherever they have come from, those were good middle-class jobs with good benefits,